Episode 4, How Giving Changes Us. So far in this series, we've talked about giving as an act of worship, as stewardship, as a response to God's generosity. But today, we're going to shift the focus because giving doesn't just change the world around you, it changes you. So section 1 of this lesson, where your treasure goes, your heart follows. Jesus said something radical in Matthew 6, verse 21, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Notice, he didn't say, where your heart is, your treasure follows. He said it the other way around, because giving isn't just an expression of love, it's the direction for your heart. When you give, your heart will follow. That means, if you want to love people more, invest in them. If you want to care about the church, sow into it. If you want to grow in faith, give in faith. Your heart follows your giving always. Section 2 of this lesson. Let's be honest, money is one of the biggest competitors for our trust, and generosity is one of God's primary tools to break that grip, because every time you give, you're choosing faith over fear. I'm going to say that again. You're choosing faith over fear. You're choosing to trust the provider more than the provision. That's what Acts 20:35 says. It is more blessed to give than to receive. Because giving doesn't just bless someone else, it frees you from fear, from control, from materialism, from pride. Giving grows us. In 2 Corinthians 9, verses 10 and 11, Paul says, now he who supplies seed to the sower and bread for food will also supply and increase your store of seed, and will enlarge the harvest of your righteousness. You will be enriched in every way so that you can be generous on every occasion. Do you see what he's saying? When we give, God grows us, not just in resources, but in righteousness. Giving enlarges our soul. It explains our capacity to love, and it builds our spiritual muscles. Let's hear from someone who has experienced this firsthand, how giving didn't just meet the need, it grew their faith.
I've been asked to share with you how giving has grown my faith. Giving has not been something that was natural to Rick and I in the early part of our marriage, because we didn't even have enough money to buy groceries. And often we were trying to figure out how to balance this against that, and the same thing that many of you who are listening were doing as well. We reached a point where in reading Malachi, we're challenged in Scripture by the words that basically say, bring the full tithe into the warehouse. And it goes on to say, and see if God will not open the floodgates of heaven to you. So because my faith wasn't as strong as it should, I thought I would challenge God to his promise. And I'll just give you one example of a situation that happened with us. Rick was out of work. He'd been injured. I had quit work so I could stay home to have Tyler. And we hit one of those spots where we didn't know what we were going to do about groceries. But it was time to present our offering before the Lord. And we had committed to tithe, even the small amount that we had at that time. And together we decided to go ahead and give that tithe. Not sure how we were going to buy groceries that week. Just about the time that I wrote out the check, I got a knock on the door, and the person left, went out on the front porch, and it was a box of groceries from friends at church who knew that we were struggling a little bit, met all of our needs for that particular week. That's just one example. We went from wondering about how we were going to pay our bills to a prayer that said, Lord, if you will just teach us to be good stewards of what we have, we'll honor you and respect you in all that we have, whether it's money or time or talents. So I would say to everyone here, when God promises that he will open the floodgates of heaven to you, it isn't a name it or claim it kind of faith. It is a walk in my own faith that says God will meet my needs. Not always all of my wants, because some of my wants are not healthy for me, but he definitely meets my needs. So in my walk and in giving, I've learned that I cannot outgive God. And I think that's the biggest lesson that I could have learned from all of it.
That's the power of our generosity. It reorders your priorities, it renews your joy, and it reminds you who's really in control and who is always faithful. He is always faithful. Section 5, giving makes you more like Jesus. At the end of the day, when we give, we look more like Jesus. John 3:16 again says, "For God so loved the world that he gave." And what did he give? He gave us Jesus. And then Jesus gave everything, not because he had to, but because he loved. And every time we give, we're reflecting that same heart. What if generosity wasn't just something you do, but something that God uses to transform who you are becoming? This week, I encourage you to take a step of faith. Give with open hands and an open heart, and watch what God does in you. Next week, we're going to wrap up this series by looking at the bigger picture, how your generosity becomes part of God's mission in the world. We'll see you then.